15-minute time frame supports, they're they are okay, but the problem with the 15-minute support is that the confirmation is weak. It's a weaker confirmation. So that's why we're looking at the, I would say ideally, the 30-minute range of the. And how is that high going to be retested? We're trying to catch that wick. A lot of people have even studied strong from a trend perspective, right? What happens? You have a candle that prints bullish. Now you want the next candle to move up. Next candle should respect the low of the previous candle right over here. So now we have a higher low and we have a higher high. Now the next candle has to respect the low of the previous candle and continue to push up. So this is the basic idea of price moving up, making higher lows and higher highs based only on candles. Now, we're going to go into trend trading. If I can find my magic eraser right here. Okay, found it. Awesome. Now, trend trading is really simple. You identify the trend, and the way you identify the trend is basically you see where the higher time frames are moving. Now, let's say, for example, you're looking at the daily time frame, and the daily candle, you see that, you know, we're pushing up over here. You're like, okay, like, you know what, daily candle has to move up. You look at the 4-hour candle, and, you know, maybe the 4-hour candle is, you know, somewhere situated like this. We have a candle like this. We have a 4-hour candle forming like this. And there's clean range to the left-hand side. And you're saying, okay, like, you know what, the 4-hour candle,
वो उस कैंडल को फिल कर रहा है. जो खाली कैंडल है ना वो बाय की है और जो इसमें गंद मारा हुआ है वो सेल की है. ठीक है.
is also bullish because we're creating support. Okay, now the basic idea of trading a bullish trend is that you're waiting for price to create support. Make a note of that. To trade a bullish trend, you have to wait for price to create support. That support could be on the 4-hour time frame. That support could be on the 1-hour time frame, 30-minute time frame, 15-minute time frame supports. They are okay, but the problem with the 15-minute support is that the confirmation is weak. It's a weaker confirmation. So that's why we're looking at the, I would say ideally, the 30-minute time frame or the 1-hour time frame, right? So you have to look for supports on the 30-minute and a 1-hour time frame. Now, let's say that we are in a bullish trend, right? So we're going to remove this and we're going to draw up some proper examples right here. But this trend is also identified on the daily and the 4-hour. So if you have made up your mind that the 4-hour is bullish and there's a high probability 4-hour can move bullish, you have to wait for supports. The supports are formed on the 1-hour and 30 minutes. So let's say, for example, okay, so let's say, for example, we have a bullish candle moving up. This is a 30-minute time.
क्या?
उसमें 4 घंटे का क्या कहा है कि 4 आवर्स में क्या वो बुलिश कर सकती है, लाइक एक को आगे वो और रेजिस्टेंस बना सकती है.
मैंने सुना नहीं. रुको.
And a 1-hour time frame. Now, let's say that we are in a bullish trend, right? So we're going to remove this and we're going to draw up some proper examples right here. But this trend is also identified on the daily and the 4-hour. So if you have made up your mind that the 4-hour is bullish and there's a high probability 4-hour can move bullish, you have to wait for supports. The supports are formed on the 1-hour and 30 minutes. So let's say, for example, okay, so if you have made up your mind that the 4-hour, looking at the, I would say ideally, the 30-minute time frame or the 1-hour time frame, right? So you have to look for supports on the 30-minute and a 1-hour time frame. Now, let's say that we are in a bullish trend, right? So we're going to remove this and we're going to draw up some proper examples right here. But this trend is also identified on the daily and the 4-hour. So if you have made up your mind that the 4-hour is bullish and there's a high probability 4-hour can move bullish, you have to wait for supports. The supports are formed.
वो कह रहा है 4 घंटे मूव कर रहे थे, मतलब 4 घंटे लेना है. आप घंटा अद्धे घंटे दे घंटे वाले ते ये अपना सपोर्ट रेजिस्टेंस फाइंड करनी है.
On the 1-hour and 30 minutes. So let's say, for example, okay, so let's say, for example, we have a bullish candle moving up. This is a 30-minute time frame, moving up, moving up, moving up. We are moving up right here. Okay, awesome. We moved up at this point. Now, we have formed a resistance at a zone on the 30-minute time frame. Now, if you've gone through the section of zones and ranges, you may look at this and say, okay, you know what, Raja, based on that virtual class we did, price is at a 30-minute zone, and 30-minute zone is a very strong zone, so there's a higher probability it can go down. Why can't we take sells? The reason why you can't take sells at this point is because, let's say you take sells at this point in a heavy bullish trend, and you have
समझ आई क्या बोला उसने?
इस पे नहीं करना चाहिए सेल, इस पे हैवी बुलिश टाइम होता है, ये समझ रहे हैं लोग।
कोई लोग होते हैं वो इधर से जैसे कि वो एक सेल बनी है ना, वो एक मैं कल जैसे उसको कॉन्सेप्ट पढ़ा रहा था, एक ये वाली सेल बन गई सेल, ये वाली कैंडल, ठीक है, और कुछ लोग होंगे वो बोलेंगे भाई ये हो गई है सेल, ठीक है, वैसे करते हैं, ये वाली सारी क्लीन रेंज है ये वाली, तो बेहतर है अभी हम इधर से इंटर हो जाते हैं सेल में, इधर से हम इंटर हो जाएंगे सेल में और वेट करेंगे, ये वाला मूव सारा उठाएंगे, इधर से सेल करेंगे। ये नहीं उसने बोला, उसने क्योंकि ये ट्रेंड बाय का है, ठीक है, सेल का हो या एक और वो एंट्री होती है वो अलग चीज़ है, वो बाद में बताऊंगा आपको, ठीक है। अभी ये क्या हुआ है ये बनी है कैंडल बाय में कैंडल बनी है ये वाली सारी, ये बाय है, अभी ये एक बन गई सेल में, अभी ये होगी रेजिस्टेंस, ठीक है, अभी रेजिस्टेंस हो गई है, अभी रेजिस्टेंस है, अभी यहाँ तो कैंडल्स ऐसे और बने नीचे को, ऐसे ये एक सेल की है, एक ये सेल की बने, ठीक है, और उसके बाद फिर एक बाय की बनेगी ऐसे, इधर से फिर एक बाय की बनेगी, जब ऐसे बाय की बनेगी ये हो जाएगी फिर सपोर्ट, और ये वाली होगी रेजिस्टेंस, ठीक है। अब एक कैंडल इसको ब्रेक करे, इसको ऐसे ब्रेक करे, और नेक्स्ट कैंडल फिर जब ऐसे ऊपर जाएगी तो इधर से हम बाय करेंगे, ठीक है। हेलो, हेलो,
ठीक है,
क्या ठीक है, समझ आई है?
आ रही है आवाज? नहीं, ठीक है।
सपोर्ट एंड रेजिस्टेंस की समझ आई है
हेलो,
क्या?
आवाज नहीं आ रही?
सपोर्ट एंड रेजिस्टेंस की समझ आ गई है?
हाँ आई है, आ गई है।
चलो अभी आगे देखो।
London volume, London open volume, New York open, NYC, whatever that is. But the time is when there's a lot of volume, right? So let's say you take a sell. What can happen is if you're not.
मैं हैंड फ्रीज ले आऊं क्योंकि ब्लूटूथ की बैटरी खत्म हो गई है, वैसे आवाज नहीं आती।
ठीक है।
Yes, I am back.
Focused on the trend is that the next candle can break this high right here and continue pushing up. That's something that can happen. So whenever you have a bullish trend, you're not looking for sells. No, you're looking for buys at this point. And we're going to talk about the condition for sells as well in a bullish trend. So let's say you have, like, a rejection right here at this point, and now price starts to go down. We're moving further down, we're moving further down right here, we're moving down here, and let's suppose the trend is coming all the way from the bottom, and now you have a support form, right? This is a support form. A support is formed when you have a bullish candle closing after a bearish candle, right? The only forms of supports you're looking at are in uptrends. Always remember this, all the time. Trend is your friend. Don't trade in consolidation unless you have a bigger range, right? And when in a trend, wait for supports form. These supports could be in the, these supports could be a part of your 30-minute time frame, your 1 hour time frame, right? The higher the time frame, the better. But the 30-minute time frame, strong supports. Now, first things first, right? Your support is formed. You waited for the support form in an uptrend. Perfect. You got your support form. Now at this point, you're measuring the range, right? Let's say this range on the 30-minute is about 30 pips. You got a 30 pip range. You got a support formed, and you're like, okay, like, you know what? I have enough range to take a trade for price to retest this high. Now, remember this one thing. Whenever we're in a trend, whenever price is in a trending market and it makes a high, there's a high probability, there's an 80% probability that that high is going to be retested. And how is that high going to be retested? If we're going to create support. So if we're creating support at this point, there's a high probability for price to continue pushing up if we're creating a support, right? And your stop is below this candle. That's it. That's all what you're looking at. It's a perfect example. This happens all the time. All the time it happens like, you know, clockwork when there's times of volume. So whenever you have an uptrend and you're anticipating 4-hour candles to go bullish, you're anticipating the daily candles to go bullish, you're waiting for 30-minute or 1 hour to create support and to continue pushing in the trend direction. That's where you're only trading the bullish trend. Now, sometimes you can have different variations, and these variations could be like, you know, you can have a bearish candle forming like this, and you can say that, okay, like, you know what, we got a bearish candle closing with a small body. This means that maybe the move pushing down, the volume of bearish candles moving down is decreasing because now you have a smaller body. Because always remember, the candle bodies are going to tell you how much volume there is in the market, right? So you have a bigger body, bigger body, bigger body, boom, you got a small body at this point. What are you trying to do at this point? Are you trying to wait for a support form, or are you trying to take an impulse entry as the next candle breaks above
बैक साइड
this
ते
high
फिंगरप्रिंट होंदे ने
without breaking this low? You're taking an impulse entry at that point, right? Because sometimes, like, you know, if you're new, you're going to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to wait for a support form,
fingerprint
and
होंदे
you're
ने
going to wait,
fingerprint
and as you're waiting, candle starts to
ओथे
pump up at this point, and candle closes like this.
नहीं लभ
And now
नहीं
you're like,
करा
oh man, I knew price is going to go up. Like, you know, how did these people take impulse entries? I don't understand this. So the more you
तू
see
लेट
price
आना उस दिन
move
जगह
up
खाली हो जिले दफ्तर
without
वाले
you
गड्डियां डाल लेंदे
being
ना
not in the trade, the more you're going to learn about impulse entries, because the more you're going to see, because when I first started about impulse entries, I would see price move against me all the time, and I would say, okay, you know what, why is price moving against me and I'm not in that trade? How could I have been in that trade? So I'm like, okay, you know what, if trend is where price, you know, makes a higher high and a higher low and all that stuff, and if this candle is respecting this previous candle's low, which means it's making a higher low, and if it's breaking above this high right here, this means that it's making a higher high. So if I can take an entry as it's breaking the high and have my stop below this candle or even this candle, maybe, like, you know, and if the trend is up and there's volume, maybe I have a higher probability of winning that trade with an impulse entry. Makes sense? So that's how this whole impulse entry thing came into being, like by watching price move when you're not in that trade, right? So go over these things, right? Go over this virtual class again. Now, let's say we have created a support, right? So we're going to talk about this. So let's say we've created a support right here. Yeah, let's say we've created a support right here. Now we have a support at this point. Now, okay, let me just bring this up here a little bit.
हाँ समझ आई